Okay, so that was less than 5 seconds of Star Wars, so no one can sue me. Or that's what they say. Welcome to See What Sticks, a podcast about everything and nothing. I am your co-host, Russell.
And I'm your other co-host, Emma, bringing the lovely rain showers behind the mix here, so a little cooling off today during our podcast and a little relaxation.
It's also 35 degrees outside and raining.
Fantastic.
So yeah, if you do hear the rain in the background, I'm sorry, I'm not.
We're just tapping on the mic, actually, guys. We're just kidding.
Yeah,
so you're tapping on it.
And I'm not editing that out. It's not happening. I'm sorry. There's no way.
Edit out every single raindrop sound.
Well, you could. You can't edit out the raindrop, but you can drop the levels down so you wouldn't hear it. But then the low part of our voice would sound really funky. It would sound like you're speaking through like a sponge.
So, like, how you normally sound?
Yep, pretty much. Pretty much. There's a lot of hate this episode, I guess.
Yes, there is.
I think. Are we speaking quieter? Because look at the level on here.
Maybe we are.
Usually we're talking like this. Yeah, we're definitely speaking lower. Okay, so we're putting out this extra episode of the podcast this week because Emma and I went to go see Star Wars The Last Jedi. It was quite good. The whole episode will contain full spoilers. The movie is good. You should go see it. That's my only non-spoiler part of that.
Fact.
So this was Emma's first episodic Star Wars movie she's seen.
In theaters.
Yeah, in theaters.
Calm down, y'all.
Yeah, so she's not a huge Star Wars fan, but through the powers of Russell, she's getting there. She's way bigger Lord of the Rings fan. She's more of a fantasy person than sci-fi.
I'm more of a dinosaur person than anything.
You know, dinosaurs weren't fantasy, though. Dinosaurs are real.
That's what I'm saying. It's like a totally different genre. Prehistoric is...
Dinosaurs aren't a genre of movies.
Prehistoric is.
No, I know.
Like prehistoric worlds.
What is that?
Prehistoric, universes.
A Jurassic Park doesn't take place in a prehistoric world. It takes place in, the 70s or, the 80s. And then it takes place again with Chris Pratt. No, yeah, I do. That Chris Pratt existed 75 million years ago.
We're not even going to recognize Jurassic World. That's just not...
Because CGI dinosaurs don't hold up.
No, they don't.
Oh, wait. Before we get into Star Wars, I have a dinosaur quiz for you.
Oh, no. I'm not really good with this kind of stuff.
So, in Jurassic Park 3...
Yes.
What is the name of the dinosaur
I'm really bad at
with, it looks sort of like the T-Rex except it has, the horns above its eyes. The two very small horns above its eyes.
Doesn't it start with an R?
No. I know what it's called.
I'm really bad at, actual dinosaur species names. I couldn't tell you.
It's called Carnotaurus.
I guess that makes sense.
They showed it in the trailer for the new Jurassic World 2 Fallen Kingdoms.
Yeah.
And then the T-Rex from the old movies that comes and fucks it up.
God, we all love the T-Rex. It's the worst thing ever, but it's definitely
It always comes to save the day. It's the real hero.
Yes, save the day in huge air quotes.
Yeah, and Dr. Ian Malcolm with his shirt off, blowing in the wind. Hot.
Always finds a way.
Life does find a way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so on another Spielberg-related movie genre that isn't owned by George Lucas in combination with Spielberg, Star Wars. So, for those of you who haven't seen Star Wars, shut this podcast off, go watch 13 hours of Star Wars, and come back to us. Okay, you're back. How was that 13 hours? Was it good? Have you become enlightened? Okay, so now we're going to talk about the movie. We won't go into the ending yet. We'll start at the beginning and work our way through. So going into it, Emma, what did you think?
I thought it was very good. I'm not really entirely sure how I feel about Yoda in the newest one. I mean, I haven't seen all the Star Wars movies, so I definitely don't have the actual, emotional attachment to him like everyone does just from being fans of it, and I totally understand that, but just even hearing about him from other people and seeing other things with him in it, I kind of feel like they made him a little bit of a comic relief, a joke, but not in the way of, being, a joke. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so...
they kind of made him more... They made him less serious.
Yeah.
And wise to me. They made him kind of, goofy.
Yeah, in the original Star Wars from 1977, and then in Empire Strikes Back... Or, sorry, he's not in the first one. He's not in New Hope. He's in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. When Luke first meets Yoda on Dagobah, Yoda's like this little Muppet creature who's just like digging through his stuff and is like, what is this? Like stuff like that. And he's kind of like, who is this little green Muppet alien? But then you realize like the wiseness of Master Yoda through him being kind of
and like, I understand that he makes like a couple jokes and things. You know, I've seen it in all of them. He does kind of like, he is a little bit of the comic relief, but like
this one,
he had like zero old-fashioned Yoda, and it was all just like ha 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 knee slapper, and I'm like, that's weird.
My biggest thing that was weird with Yoda is since he was a Force ghost in this, he is a Force ghost, so he's not actual Yoda. I mean, he is actual Yoda, but he's re-embodied through the power of the Force. He actually touches Luke. He hits him with the cane. And if Force ghosts, like, they can't interact with people, you know what I mean? That was weird that he was able to actually hit him, and Luke felt it. I thought that was very strange. And Force ghost Yoda wasn't, like, blue. You know, like how you see the Force ghosts and they're all, like, blue hologram kind of things. He was just normal colored Yoda with a blue outline.
Day-to-day Yoda hanging out, like...
With a blue outline.
Yeah.
And...
I don't know. I think maybe people... I don't know. I don't know if they were scared that people were going to get confused if he was blue. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that would happen. He's, like, the only thing ever that looks like that. So
there's another one of Yoda's species in the, like, prequels that's, like, in the council, but you never really hear about them. But you don't know what species Yoda is either. Like, everything else in Star Wars has, like, a name and what planet they're from. Yoda's species, I don't think is ever really explicitly named.
Other than that, I thought it was very good.
Yeah.
I liked...
It was shot really well. Like, cinematography-wise, holy Christ.
I think the biggest, like... Again, spoilers. Please stop listening if you don't like spoilers. The biggest mind-blower for me was definitely the final, like, kind of, like, fight scene.
Okay, yeah. Yes.
Salt.
Yeah, so, we just saw the movie, and I'm not going to go into all the planet names, but we'll kind of give you a little rundown on the plot. So, where we pick up from The Force Awakens is Kylo Ren got shot by Chewie after killing Han, fought Rey, messed up Finn real bad, sliced his back open. So that's kind of where we pick up, and Rey is on this island planet with Luke. And it's really interesting, like the first scene of the movie, you see Poe Dameron, the pilot, so kind of new Han Solo, go and sort of troll the First Order in his X-Wing, which I thought was a weird place for the movie to open up. Was like, so the First Order... What?
They were like working on the Dreadnought, remember?
Yeah, they were working on the Dreadnought, and he was like a lone ship there.
Well, he wasn't. So long story short, there was like a big attack, blah, 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 like working through all that really fast, speediness here, and they were like, fall back, we lost more than half of everything we needed. And he was like, nah, screw that, I'm gonna totally disobey orders and turn off the communication system, and he just went for it. And
he blew up all like the base cannons so that they could get their bombers in. The rebels or the Resistance could get their like space bombers in.
Which little do we know ended up failing miserably in some aspects.
Yeah, so they basically weren't able to like detonate on the target the way they needed to, and they lost like 100 times more people than they needed to because Poe Dameron was being kind of a hothead.
Yeah.
Which is kind of seen throughout the movie. Like, you think he's being a good guy because you're like, oh yeah, in movies the hothead always kind of saves the day. But in this movie, he kind of didn't. He sort of kept screwing up. But his heart was in the right place. But he was kind of consistently wrong.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting fact. I think something else that was sort of cool was, so in the beginning of the movie, you see this whole thing happen, and General Hux, who's Domhnall Gleeson, the actor, who's essentially Space Hitler in this. I mean, kind of Grand Moff Tarkin was Space Hitler, but he is also Space Hitler. And he totally botches this attack ambush, and then Snoke, you see him come up on screen, and he just pastes Domhnall Gleeson with the Force. And I thought it was really cool. He just like, kind of like the Force choke thing, but he Force slams him into the ground. And I didn't know this. I learned this morning. Do you know who plays Snoke? It's Andy Serkis. It's Gollum. It's motion capture. I knew it was a motion capture character, but I didn't know it was Andy Serkis.
I guess that would make sense. He's got a lot of experience with it.
With like Caesar, the ape, and everything. So yeah, that's who it was. And then, so after that, we meet up with Rey and Luke. on this water planet with the islands, which is like the founding home of the Jedi. And I thought it was really weird because everyone from the last movie 2 years ago to now was like, oh, what is Luke going to do when he sees like the lightsaber that got cut out of his hand by Vader? And I thought they were going to answer the question is, how did they find this lightsaber? Because it fell down that pit in Cloud City. But they didn't answer it, and literally Rey gives Luke the lightsaber and he just throws it over his shoulder off the cliff. Which I thought was an interesting way for him to take it because he's like, why the hell are you here? And I don't want this stupid lightsaber. I'm done with this. And you know what else they didn't answer? So we're skipping ahead. So in the story where you see the flashback where Luke attacks Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, kind of by accident, he has his green lightsaber, right? That's what he like holds up. They don't establish where that green lightsaber went. So is there just Luke's green lightsaber just out there in some rubble, or does he have that with him as well? So is there another lightsaber sitting on that island?
I have no idea.
Yeah, that's something I've been wondering the whole movie. I'm like, is he going to use the green lightsaber again? But we'll get to Luke later. So Luke is kind of just sort of being Mr. Miyagi on the island where he's like, I don't want to train you. I don't want to be part of this anymore. And then through some sort of dreams and through the power of Master Yoda kind of hits him over the head literally and metaphorically to be like, hey, dude, you need to help her. And you need to like make sure that like the mistakes of the Jedi die, but the positive aspect of this religion, these monks, live on. So that happens. Snoke dies. Kylo Ren kills Snoke, sort of through the Force. He spins a lightsaber around on a table or on his chair, and like Force opens it and zaps him through the stomach and cuts him in half. Which is kind of a cool scene because he's torturing Rey, or Snoke is torturing Rey, and Kylo Ren is sort of like they have this bond mentally with each other through the Force, and it's kind of not explained. It is, but it's not like they can see each other, but they can't. It's very not explained. It's kind of a cool way to have people communicate with each other in different locations. What did you think about that? Like their fight scene with the Red Guard guys with they're almost like samurais. What did you know?
I know what you're talking about. I'm kind of putting my thoughts together about it because I wasn't really sure which parts you were going to ask me about. I don't know. I have very mixed emotions about it. I just kind of think Kylo Ren is sort of a piece of turd. And so I don't.
Wait, why do you say that? Because he's an angsty teen?
Not angsty teen. He's just he's just not a trustworthy kind of dude, I think.
No, yeah, well, definitely not. That I think that's shown.
Yeah, so even when I think that's kind of what fools you in it, is that he, like, turns on Snoke and, like...
he does turn on Snoke, but he also...
But, like, that's the thing is, he's, like, it makes you want to think for a second that Rey has, like, officially turned him back to the good side, blah, 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 like, all that kind of stuff, and then you realize that no. That's definitely because, like, right after, like, the whole fight scene and everything, he's like, Rey, like, turn to my side and we can, like, get rid of everybody, just let them all die, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, darn, okay, he didn't change. Like, he just now is taken and gone against the dark side, but now is, like, wanting to own everything, including, I don't know.
I think which is interesting with him is he did go against the dark side or against, like, the Sith side of the Force. But he didn't go to the good side, if that makes sense.
He didn't go against the dark side. He kind of just got things out of his way.
Yeah.
That's more of, like, and I think it makes you want to think he went against the dark side when...
I think he just went against his leader.
It was a mind game. Yeah, and he just wanted to be the one that was in control. It wasn't really a dark side versus light side kind of thing.
I think inside of him somewhere when he was talking to Rey in those, like, apparitions or the Force communication they had together. Yeah. I think parts of him do want to be a good guy. Yeah. But I think that there's so much of, like, the whole Snoke thing and how there's, like, this evil brewing in him thing that he's just... It's one of those... It's easier to keep going on the path that he is going on than to do a full 180 and become good. I think one of the biggest things that was interesting about his character is a thing a lot of people predicted, and something that I actually thought as well, is him and Rey were going to flip. Like, Rey was going to become evil, and he was going to become good. They were going to flip sides.
Yes.
And
because she went directly to the dark side when she was working with Luke.
Yeah,
like, it wasn't even like a trial. It was just like
she just
line in it.
And I think that was interesting where she kind of told Luke, it's like, yeah, there may be dark side in you, but that doesn't mean you make that choice. And I think it shows that everyone has a level of like doubt in them, or a level of like uncertainty and like evil or whatever you want to call it in them.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't make you a bad person. It's like whatever you choose. And then they kind of explain why Kylo Ren turned into Kylo Ren. It's because he had this evil in him, kind of like Rey, and Luke jumped to conclusions and thought that he had turned bad, where he was just kind of like struggling with it, and Luke tries to kill him. But then he kind of like second guesses himself and wakes Ben Solo, Kylo Ren up, and then they get into a whole fight, and it kind of, that's what pushes him over the line, is Luke's fault. Which is kind of a cool way of putting that, where it's like Luke inadvertently causes the problem that he was trying to stop.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Luke and Kylo Ren. It was pretty cool. We'll get to the end later. But basically the whole plot of the movie is the Resistance ship is outrunning the Dreadnought, or outrunning the Imperial, or the First Order rather. It's just them out of range of another ship for, I think it's 18 hours in the movies, how long it lasts. And what happened is the Resistance, there's literally like 100 of them left on like 2 ships, and they're out of fuel, and the Resistance can track them through light speed now, so they keep like hopping through the galaxy, and they're sort of just like staying within this like 2 or 3 mile gap, and if that closes, they go within range of the missiles from, or the blasters from the First Order ships. And so some of the rebel smaller cruisers are losing speed, and you see the Imperials, or I'm just calling them Imperials, blow them up. And so what they need to do is have someone go off ship, find a way to get into the big ship, turn off their ability to track, so that the Resistance can get away in time, sort of sneak past in like a 2-second gap. So they send Finn and this girl Rose on this mission. And what did you think of their storyline, the Finn and Rose going to the casino planet?
Shady. I think it's super shady, and I think it's totally like,
they didn't need that.
No, the romance side of it was really not needed.
That was very Disney.
Yes, it was very Disney. I think that, like, if I'm gonna be honest, a huge like problem with me, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, here we go, feminazi," and that's not what I am. But I think a huge problem with me is that aside from Mulan and Brave, and then a couple of their newer quote unquote Disney princess movies, like The Princess and the Frog, even then, it's kind of very like the man always has to rescue like the damsel in distress kind of thing, and that's what Finn did with Rose, is because she was in distress because her sister died, and he had to come along and like.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think of it like that.
Yeah, and that bothered me, because that was totally unwarranted, and, like, not, because you see Leia, does she need someone? No, she don't give a crap. Like, she doesn't need nobody, is kind of how she looks at it, and it's like,
yeah,
Rose did not need Finn to come save her.
Yeah,
and
they could have done that story arc, the Finn Rose, because there is some interesting stuff in there where they have like the horse racing kind of thing.
Well, yes, I think that was beautiful, but I don't think that it needed to turn into like a
and it didn't have to turn into like.
And then, like, at the very end, it's like Finn's taking care of Rose, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, first of all, it's shicey for Rey, who's been busting her ass. And, like, she comes home to that kind of thing. And then, like,
and there's a look where she looks at Finn tucking Rose in after she's injured.
Well, yeah.
And she looks like, she gives a what the hell look.
Well, yeah, I could totally feel that. But I'm kind of just like, I don't know. I mean, now I get it, Rose did save Finn at one point, which was pretty badass. But, like, we don't need another, like, Romeo, Juliet, Jack and Rose kind of story.
Yeah.
Like, all of them seem to turn to that anymore. And I'm like, I'd love to see, like, again, Leia or Rey, people who don't need, like, someone to come, like, save them kind of thing. Like, and I don't know why they needed to add that into this movie. Like, it was totally unneeded to make the movie good.
The thing that bothered me the most, now that you mentioned that did bug me, I guess, and I didn't realize why it bugged me. The thing that bugged me the most, and I don't know if you picked up on it, is, or I mean, you had to pick up on it because you see it, but they showed Kylo Ren without his shirt on.
Yes.
In any other Star Wars movie, there's a scene where you see Luke in like the healing Bacta tanks.
Yes.
In the second one, where his shirt is off because he's like in like stasis.
Yes.
And like he's wearing this like diaper thing with this like the tubes, and his shirt's not on. But, like, why did they have to show, like, a sexual Kylo Ren?
Yeah, that made me uncomfortable. I'm gonna be real. I don't know why, but it just made me incredibly uncomfortable in the theater. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Because
You don't need sexual Kylo Ren.
I don't view him like that.
Yeah.
Like, nobody, I don't think, has ever viewed him, or really many of the characters, like that.
I mean, maybe most Han Solo. If any of the...
Yes.
Yeah, that's the only character that you could kind of, like, sexualize.
See it, but, like, the Kylo Ren part just totally came out of nowhere. It was like, it wasn't even, like, a thing where you really... I don't even think you saw him remove his shirt, did you? It was, like, already off. He just walked around the corner. So it was just, like...
Wait,
pan
what?
from one scene to another, and he's like popped out of nowhere without a shirt. And you're like, oh god, what?
It's like Luke catching fish on this island, and then half naked Kylo Ren.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
That's like that'd be like in the original trilogy having Darth Vader, like you see him without his helmet on in the back, but that's like if you saw Darth Vader without the bodysuit on and you saw his burnt robo nipples. And it's like, no one needs that.
No one needs that kind of life.
Yeah. You don't need that. And that was like...
That made me very uncomfortable.
You know what that made me think of? In, you know, like the Avengers and all the other Disney ones?
once again, they did pull the damsel of distress with Rey. And Snoke.
Yeah,
because
where
Rey was going to die, and then Kylo had to come along and save the day.
I thought it'd be interesting where when he's like torturing her, if somehow she overpowered him. Like, while she's getting tortured?
It wasn't the overpowering. I think it would have been cooler if she did more of, like, a mind game kind of thing with him instead. Like, a more calculated kind of tactical thing.
Yeah.
Rather than just full-on fighting.
See...
And where she's like, oh, yeah, I'll turn to the dark side. I mean, she's got those kind of powers to manipulate people.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why didn't you just do that instead of being like, oh, Kylo, save me? Or, like, oh, Finn, save me? Like, I don't know why that's, like, the theme of everything.
I thought it'd be cool. So, like... Basically, Snoke body locks her into this position where Kylo can cut her head off, is kind of what happens. It'd be cool, you know how Kylo flips the lightsaber around to kill Snoke? It'd be cool if Rey did that. Don't you think that'd be cool if Rey was doing that?
I think that they should have given that part to Rey because, like...
And then she could have fought Kylo.
I understand that they tried to do it to develop a little bit of the plot with Kylo to make you think, oh, he is changing, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is we still would have gotten the same concept had he have helped Rey fight off everyone else.
Yes.
Like, he didn't need to be the one that did all the work while Rey just sat there like poor innocent Rey until they started fighting. And even then she got... Do you realize she got also pinned?
Yeah.
With one person.
And then
she
he's got...
fighting off three.
And then a lot of the plot, I think... There's, like, scenes where she was kind of off-world with Chewie, because she got, like, zapped into the Dreadnought or Snoke ship, and then she got picked up by Chewie in the Millennium Falcon. We never saw that. That part was edited out of the film.
Yeah.
It's like, how did she... There's a scene that was definitely cut out in the editing that were like, wait, why are they together now? And I mean, yeah, through context you get it, but that was a weird editing choice.
I will say on it, like, in all honesty, I did enjoy the Chewbacca Porg scenes. That was... very nice, enlightening kind of like...
And it wasn't annoying.
No, they didn't take it too far. That was what made it really funny, is it was very, very light little sprinklings of it, and it was hilarious to me. Because it's like, everyone loves Chewie as it is. I mean, you can't not.
Yeah.
And like, it added to this whole character dynamic for him, I think.
Yeah.
He always acts like a big badass,
so, like,
and then everyone's like, no, he's definitely a softie.
Because Chewie... Yeah, I think the thing with Chewie is Han had Chewie, that's his sidekick. Yeah. So Chewie needed a sidekick, and it's this little porg. And the funniest scene with the porg, so they're like these little bird penguins that live on the island, right?
They're like dog. I don't know what
they have like the nose of a dog, but they're like penguins.
They're like, it's like if a puffin, a puppy, and a penguin all had a baby, and it's like definitely what you get. The
funniest scene is Chewie has like barbecued ones, and they're looking at him, and he's just like, I don't even want to eat this anymore.
Yeah, that made me laugh. And then, like, you see the next scene where it's, like, this super intense scene. It's been building up to this the entire time. And it, like, pans over to Chewie in the front. There's, like, a porg sitting on the, like, dash.
Slaps it out of the way.
Yeah, I'm like, okay. Like, that was good. I thought that was very well planned. But I don't think that they should have moved that comic relief to Yoda. I think that's where they should have stopped, was with the porgs.
The porgs and BB-8.
Oh my god, I love BB-8.
Yeah, so
BB-8 is such
BB-8 is like R2-D2, where it's like you can have him be comic relief.
It just makes me laugh because people have so much attachment to this little BB-8, and it literally is one of the very few things in the movie that has 0 lines.
Yeah,
like actually has no lines.
You know, BB-8 is that's a real thing they built.
Yes,
yeah,
and it's so cool to me. I'm like, that's so neat. Same with R2. Like,
yeah, R2.
They don't say any words, and it still is like hilarious.
You know, there's a guy inside R2.
Yes, I did actually know that. What makes me laugh, though, is, like, how well Poe was able to communicate with BB-8. like how
That's like Luke and R2 are like that.
yes, like how fast at firing back responses he was. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand that's practicing lines and all that kind of stuff, but it just made the movie flow so much better. Because
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, like totally having a conversation.
That's like
with someone.
talking to Chewie.
Yes. Yes.
I think an interesting thing. Okay, let's talk about the Leia stuff. Okay, so Leia in the beginning of the movie, there's one of the cannons from the Dreadnought or from Snoke's ship hits the cockpit of the
bridge.
the bridge of the Resistance cruiser, and it kills everyone, including Admiral Akbar. It was a trap. Rest in peace, Admiral Akbar. And I think it was interesting that they didn't kill off Leia. Because, as some of you may know, most of you know, that Carrie Fisher, the actress who played Leia, died right after the filming. And so I thought at that scene, okay, that's how they're going to kill Leia. Wow, that really ripped the Band-Aid off. But she used the Force through outer space to kind of portal back into the ship, which was an interesting choice because we've never seen that in Star Wars before.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, maybe you could explain through, like, the lore that this is something that any Force user could use. But it kind of negates this whole, like, someone dying thing. It
negates morality to me, and that bothers me a little bit, because I'm a kind of personality that I hate perfect, happy endings at every single movie that I watch. Like, no, I'm not, like, a horrible, like, sociopath. But, like, I enjoy realistic movies and the fact of, like, this could happen and this is real, rather than everything always ending in a perfect solution. Like, and that drives me nuts. And so it's like, I know she's, like, the most key character to, like, a lot of this, and I understand that people love her dearly, but, like, also, if she's meant to be, like, eliminated, then it needs to happen in a proper way. And, like, that's kind of where it was, like, that would have been totally plausible that could have happened. You know, things happen. People make mistakes. Accidents happen, you miscalculated or misplotted, and someone matched that. And that's what happens in war. And that's kind of where I'm like, it was a little cheesy to me. I'm going to be really honest.
It was very Disney.
Cheesy, yes. How she just magically opened her eyes and, like, spun herself back to the ship. And I was kind of like, okay, guys. Like,
I think it'd be interesting if she opened her eyes in space and did something with the Force and then died.
Yes, I think that would have been
or she moved her fingers.
Yes, it would have been a grand way for her to go out. But, like,
the using the Force to survive, it's an interesting thing if it would have been done before or proven in some other way that this could happen. It's like, oh, cool, she can also do this thing. But they just brought these certain things of the Force where people can, like, see each other from other locations, like they're talking on the phone or Skype.
Yes.
That thing, I get it, the Force is, like, all-powerful, and there's all these things you can do with it if you're really strong with it. But they brought in these other dynamics that I was just like, what? Like, in the last movie and this one, they did something cool, Kylo Ren, where they're fighting over the lightsaber in midair.
Yes.
And the last one, Kylo Ren stops a blaster bolt. He, like, stops it in midair. It's, like, sitting there. Those are cool things where you're like, oh, that's awesome. They can, like, do that. But the whole, like, bringing people back to life or preventing death through the Force, I think it's a cop-out.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, but let's talk about all of our favorite scenes from that entire movie. One of our favorites. The light speed.
Oh, okay, so.
That was beautiful.
So there's a scene in the movie, if you've seen it, and if you've not, there's one scene in the movie that I was told by some friends and other movie reviewers online that there's one scene in the movie that will make your jaw drop. The whole movie is beautifully done.
Yes.
Special effects-wise, everything flawless. I mean, probably not flawless, but flawless.
Yes.
And there's one scene that people are like, wait for it. You will know the scene. And I'm like, okay, it's all really well done. But
and it's a little later in the movie, so you kind of start thinking, maybe did I miss it? Like, did someone find something way more interesting than I did?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And I'm kind of a film nerd and, like, a film school person. And I'm like, have I lost my touch? Have I lost where'd it go? And then, so there's a new-ish character who's kind of Leia's second in command, who you kind of think is like this asshole woman, but she's not. Mm-hmm. She's just kind of a good leader who makes the hard choices and isn't hot-headed.
She's kind of like the fall man, the one that is like the disciplinary.
Yeah.
Because, like, Leia will be like, don't do that, but, like, this girl is like, hell no, like,
and
you are in trouble, So.
And I kind of liked how she was the opposite of Poe, where you think Poe's the good guy, and you're like, Poe, just let him do this. But Poe's being kind of irrational. It's like, everyone will die if they're doing what he wants to do. And so Poe stages like a coup on the ship, and he's like, if you let anyone move, like, blast them on sight with the other pilots. And then he goes and, like, locks himself in the bridge, and then the ship is losing speed, and Leia wakes up from her, like, being in outer space.
Yes.
And so she brings the other person in. They put Poe, like, they zap him, knock him unconscious, put him on these escape pods so they can all kind of survive.
Try and get away.
And then the woman who was the second command of Leia, who you think is a bad guy, is like, I have to stay on the ship. Like, someone has to stay here.
To send them all off.
Yeah, to, like, send them off and make sure everyone gets away safely. And you're like, wow, she's a really honorable, noble person.
Yes.
She just knows when to make the call.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was really cool. So these ships are getting blasted off because Finn and Rose meet this guy who's a smuggler on this casino planet where they're sent to find someone who can break this code that the Imperials have. And it's really cool on the planet. I think the nice thing you learn is war is bought and sold by people.
Yes.
And people profit from war. And it's that you think it's all the bad guys, but then they're also selling X-Wings. So the good guys and bad guys are profiting from the same people, and I think that's a really interesting thing they added into the film. And we'll get back to that. But the smuggler guy, they get on the Imperial, like, the head ship, and they're, like, undoing the code. They get there, and then the smuggler guy sells them out and tells the First Order, like, hey, they have escape pods leaving. So they start blasting off the escape pods, and the woman who's the second command who's on the ship turns the ship around, and they only have enough juice to do light speed one more time, and she aims at the ships, and I was like, oh shit, she's gonna light speed through the ships, because when you think of light speed, you almost think of them like jumping, but you're just going really fast. It's like a bullet. And that scene,
because what it does is it kind of removes you from the inside of both of those ships, and it brings out that, like, okay, similar to the movie that most people hate, Gravity.
Yeah.
It brings out that, like, silence.
Yeah, it's like
absolutely you hear nothing.
Yeah, there's no sound,
but
which
you just see all of these things, and it's very slow. Like, it's just, like, slow down, where it just blows everything up, and it's insane, because she splits right through them.
Yeah, so what happens, what Emma means by this is, so Star Wars, John Williams is the composer, incredible score, as always, and so, you know, in the inside, when you're seeing go light speed, you see all the stars go past, and it's like all like the blue and white light. But this one, you see the beginning, and then you're in space, like the camera's in outer space, and you just, like, it's nothing. It's silence, and then, like, the whole screen goes black except for the line that's the light speed, and it slices these ships in half, and it shows the shadows from what the explosion would be or what the light speed would be, like if you were looking at someone go through it. And everyone in the theater was like, and everyone, like, was stunned. And then it goes back to normal, and you see, like, the wreckage from the outside, and it's just unreal.
Yes.
Apart from that, the whole movie is shot very well, but that scene, that was Rian Johnson, the director, was probably like, we got to do this. Like, we're going to try this scene. And then, so going back to the planet where Finn and Rose are, there's a new Jedi.
Fact.
So it was like
very few people caught it, I think, in the theater that we were at, except like a very select few, because you could hear a couple people go, yeah, it's like one of the scenes, because it's very, very, very minute, and if you aren't paying attention, you won't quite realize what just happened. Like, if you blink, you will miss it.
There's
like, literally.
Like a 6-year-old.
Yes.
Who's like a stable boy.
Yes, who's like this little poor stable boy, blah, blah, blah. Rose drops her resistance ring, blah, blah, blah. And he's wearing it, and they're getting, like, the crap beat out of him by this, like,
alien
casino owner kind of guy,
yeah.
like the one that runs all the races and things. What kind of animals were those? Do they have names?
Oh,
did they even name them?
Yeah, they did.
I can't remember.
They look like almost like people
they
faces.
They kind of look like the Finnick foxes.
Yeah.
They look very much like a Finnick fox and a dog had a baby, but they're huge kind of thing. Like,
yeah.
Anyway, so he goes to start sweeping outside, and, like, it literally is a blink of an eye kind of, like, second thing, where he holds his hand out and pulls a broom to his hand, but it's right against the wall.
And it's only, like, a foot, not even. And, like, the broom just kind of tips into his hand.
Yep.
And a few people are like, oh. And then you see him kind of look up at the sky, and you see, like, someone go light speed, and you see the ring, and you're like, this kid in the next movie will probably be kind of like a New Hope.
Yes. And
so that will take us to the end of the movie, where we're on this, like, salt planet where it's like an old rebel hideout. So all the resistance members, the only remaining ones, I think there's like 25 of them left, of everyone in the resistance, because the original base got blown up in the beginning of the movie, and they're kind of being picked off throughout the movie. So maybe 30 people left, and they're in this like bunker, and they kind of do the thing that they did in Empire Strikes Back, where they're having all the guys line up in the trenches, and they have the AT-AT walkers with this big ass battering ram cannon thing, and they're like, okay, we have one shot, we got to go out there, we got to turn the cannon off, and the whole planet is covered in salt, but underneath it's like red dirt.
The red is salt. So the top of it's covered in like, it's kind of like if snow and dirt had a baby.
Oh.
So it's like a powder. It's a really fine powder. And that's why when the guy gets out and starts walking away with the red in the shoe, the other guy like tastes it and it's like, oh, it's salt. And you have to watch for that, but it's in when they're in the trenches.
Oh.
And so the combination of the very, very bright red with the white
looks so cool.
Insanely cool. I mean, it just adds so much to the overall scene.
It's in the trailers where you see those like the kind of janky ships going across the what I thought was snow, but there's like red dirt being kicked up.
Yes.
And they're like trench skimmers.
Yes.
And they're gonna try to just go out and suicide mission into this the cannon to make sure it doesn't blast open the base.
They weren't actually going to suicide mission into the battering cannon. They were actually trying to disarm it or disable it. Yeah. But Finn decides to be... Was it Poe or... It was Finn. Because Finn. Rose saved Finn. So Finn tries to be like...
Kamikaze mission.
Lifesaver of the year and fly right into the center of it.
Which wouldn't have worked.
Like, no. And Rose was like, you're stupid. It's already charged. So she like... Because they were already told to like go back. Yeah. And so she spun around and crashed into him and left them both out. And she pretty much almost killed herself in the process of trying to do it and save him. That part again kind of got cheesy for me. It was like building up to this super grand scene, and then it was like bam, back to the fucking romance. And I was just like, sorry for my language.
But I think it was really, it would have been kind of cool to have if Finn just kind of sacrificed himself, and if that worked, and the whole thing was just like and it was off. But oh wow,
that actually worked.
But so like he's going in the line of this missile or this cannon charging up, so there's like light and heat, and he's like going into it towards this giant cannon hole, and Rose kind of beelines him out of the path.
Yes.
And both their ships sort of like crumbled to nothingness because they're made of like junk parts.
Yeah.
And like okay, and it was just like she's like, "Will you do this for the ones you love?" And then they kiss, and I'm like, "What?" It
was a very strange screen kiss as well. Like, let's be real. It was like, instead of being like, okay, I get it, nobody likes the really weird, like, fully embracing, long, mouthy kiss. Like, no one likes that.
Everyone's just uncomfortable.
But this was like, both heads were both vertical, and they, like, pecked. And that was it. And you're like, what? And then she, like, doesn't die, but, like, just completely collapses and passes out. And, like, that's just...
it was just
and, like... How did she get back?
He dragged her.
He didn't drag her all the way back there, though.
I think he did. I think that's what that implies. That he dragged her a quarter mile back to that bunker while there's a giant firefight.
Yeah, see, I'm just like, what?
So what's happening at the same time is, and Rey left Luke, and Rey's like, dude, I'm going to go solve this problem if you're going to be too much of, like, a crotchety old man.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of cool where she's like, I don't need you. I'm going to just get the hell out of here. And she does. And she, like... That's when she, like, does the whole thing with Kylo Ren, and then she dips out after she realizes he's being an asshole. And so she's with Chewie on this planet, intercepting these TIE fighters and intercepting the AT-AT walkers. And so she was with Chewie trying to figure out how to get these people out of this cave through these, like, little ice dogs. There's an escape route. And so everyone in the bunker is, like, trying to get out where these dogs are getting out, and Rey uses the Force as the last Jedi to open the rocks and get out. But while this is all happening... Kylo Ren on the inside doesn't realize, or on the outside doesn't realize they're all escaping through the back.
Yes.
Because everyone kind of knows, like, this is a dead end. Mm-hmm. This, like, bunker is the door to protect the people on the inside of this, like, mine shaft. And then, holy shit, like, Luke shows up and says hi to Leia, which is a really emotional scene. And Leia's like, yeah, I know, I changed my hair, kind of thing. And you're like, aw. Because it, like, what Emma said when we saw it, she's like, that's a good way to diffuse that situation.
Yeah.
And... Like, Luke is like, hey, I know I've been kind of an ass. I know I've been gone.
She's kind of just like, shut up.
She's like, shut up and do
what you need to do.
Yeah, and so, and he's like, I'm sorry about Kylo Ren because that's Leia's son. Mm-hmm. And Leia's like, I know, he's gone. Like, my son isn't there anymore. It's just this, like, monster.
I mean, he did technically kill her.
Yeah, he technically tried to kill her.
He's the one that shot up the bridge and sent her
he didn't, and the two TIE fighters that he was commanding did. Remember, he didn't press it, but the TIE fighters with him did. And he didn't stop them. Like, he could have stopped all three of them.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he was sitting there. He could have stopped him because he had the ability to talk to him. and just didn't. So he didn't do it, but he kind of did.
Yeah.
And then, but he killed her husband and his dad.
Yeah.
So that's pretty not cool. So then after all of that, what happened was Luke went out to meet Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren was just like, give it all you got on this one guy. So all the AT-AT walkers just like blow him to pieces, and then like all this smoke clears, and Kylo Ren is like, shit, he's still there. And that scene with Luke on the surface and the sunset behind all the AT-ATs, that's like, I want that as a wallpaper on like, or like a poster. Like that scene with him, like the silhouettes just standing there, so cool.
Yeah.
And then Kylo Ren comes down to fight Luke, like hand-to-hand combat, and Luke's like, you're not going to be able to defeat me, dude. Like, I'm sorry for being like, I'm sorry for making my mistakes, but we're both wrong here. Can we just like move past this? And then Luke lights up the lightsaber. Kylo lights up his lightsaber. They like clash a few times, and then Luke does like a Matrix backwards, like, you know, in the Matrix where they dodge the bullet. Luke does one of those under Kylo's lightsaber, and then you're like, oh, Luke has the moves, and then the lightsaber goes through Luke, and you're like, do you just slice him in half? But then Luke is still standing there, and I'm like, oh no, he's gonna like in Kill Bill, he's gonna like slide apart, but he doesn't, and then Kylo Ren just pushes his lightsaber through Luke, and there's just like
nothing.
It's nothing. It just goes through me and goes back, and then you see Luke on the island meditating, like floating, and he's like projecting himself into this place, and Kylo like realizes. Does he realize it?
Mm-hmm.
He realizes like, shit, like they got away, and then Luke sort of disappears. He's like, see you later, kiddo.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. He's like, your stupidity made you lose. And then Kylo Ren freaks out, and then Luke doesn't like,
that's when he's just gone.
Yeah, he doesn't die. He kind of like disappears, like Obi-Wan Kenobi sort of like disappears into the Force. And so Luke is like one with the Force now.
Yeah.
And he then says to Kylo right before he disappears, he's like, I will not be the last Jedi. And then you see Rey lifting the rocks. So that's the synopsis for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Now you don't need to see it.
Yeah.
Even though we do have a bunch of gripes about it, the movie was good. It's just Disney is Disneyfying Star Wars. And like Star Wars is like a kids movie kinda, but it's like a family movie.
Yeah.
And they're turning it into like, here's what I was gonna say. You know, like in even Jurassic Park does this. In these other movies, you know, when you see like jacked Chris Pratt and like jacked Chris Hemsworth or all the Chris Evans, all the jacked Chris's in the Marvel universe, and in Jurassic Park, which is different, they have like all these weird naked shirtless scenes where they're like sweaty. Like, why is Disney doing that? Like,
I don't know, man.
For you as a girl and from a female audience, I know you can't speak for all women. Is that like a thing that's like, oh, cool, they get a shirtless scene, or is that just like a what?
I don't particularly live for them, no. To me, it distracts from the overall thing.
Do you think it's for like female audience members, or just to show that these guys
men
are?
That think it's for female audience members, and I think a large majority of us are just like.
Yeah, that's what I was
A
thinking.
large majority of us are just like, wow, it looks just like something out of a magazine that you see every day in the freaking line of Walmart or wherever you do your grocery shopping. It's not like, okay, I guess back in the day before they had all that like photoshopping and everything and magazines and adverts and everything, like, yeah, it was kind of cool when you were able to see like a very well-toned half-naked guy on the screen. Apparently that was like a thing, but now it's like you see it everywhere.
And,
I mean, Facebook advertisements, malls, TV, like, so it's not like a shocker anymore. It's just like this random part that has nothing to do with anything else, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, and I think
it's an action movie basically. Like,
you don't need a shirtless guy,
naked dude. Like that adds to nothing for me. Like,
I think the only few times where I think that's like excusable is like in the Terminator, or like with like Arnold, or like even in Indiana Jones.
Like, romance movies, I understand you're kind of walking into that, but like, it's Star Wars. Like, that, no one thinks of a half-naked dude for Star Wars.
Like, yeah, with like Terminator or even like Mad Max or something, like you understand, and they're not just having him be shirtless. I mean, yeah, there's like a sexualization or whatever, but it's not just doing it to be like, look at this hot guy.
Yeah.
Or it probably is, but they put it into the story really like they...
Smoothly.
Yeah, they like do it pretty seamlessly, and with this, it's just like,
Bam.
why the hell does he have his shirt off? Like, cool, he's like yoked, but what is... And yeah, that's what I was asking. Like, is this for female audience members? Like, who is this for?
I guess.
This is like someone in a Disney office in like Burbank, California. They're like, you know what we need in this movie?
A half-naked dude.
A half-naked guy for about 9 seconds, and have everyone in the theater kind of look at each other and be like, what is?
This is uncomfortable.
Yeah. And in the last Star Wars movies, they didn't have that. But yeah. So, yeah, that was our thing on Star Wars. And every year now, for the rest of forever, since these movies are owned by Disney, we'll be doing a Star Wars episode. Actually, I think next week. Oh, so we're recording this. This is, December when Star Wars comes out. We're going to be doing, I know we did our Middle-earth Madness, but I think we're planning on watching a lot of movies over Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to have a whole, like, movie-tacular episode of movies. Also, a new thing on the podcast that we're starting, we have a YouTube channel that I essentially just put the podcast on there as well to get views. Just trying to rack in them views. But we're going to start a video portion of the podcast, Emma and I. And it'll be kind of like a shorter version of this alongside. And so you guys can see our pretty faces. And then we'll do more like game showy kind of things on there. It'll just be a platform for us to do more visual things. Mm-hmm. So that's a thing that will be coming out around New Year's or a little after Christmas.
Yeah.
So if people are listening or we have fans already, that's something that will be eventually happening. But until then, and if people have questions, again, I'd love to do a Q&A. Mm-hmm. Oh, Emma just gave me a thing. Okay. Oh yeah. I have to shout out someone. If you're still listening, Curtis. Hi.
Hey, I wanted to meet you, Curtis.
Hi, Curtis. How are you? I hope your comedy show went well.
Yes.
I saw it on Instagram. Hello, Curtis.
Hi.
Thank you for listening. Thank you
Curtis, you're the bomb.
Yeah. If for everyone else who doesn't know what I just did, Curtis is a guy who worked as one of the stars in a movie I made in LA and stuff. We casted him. Funniest dude. He can play the mini cymbals, apparently. I didn't get him to do it, but it was on his, like...
What?
It was on his, what do you call that for actors? Their portfolio?
Okay.
They have, like,
I want to play the mini cymbals.
it was like applicable skills.
What?
Like, on the bottom, so, like, some people can do, like, backflips.
I know.
His was, like, mini cymbals and stand-up comedy.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, my God. Bring some mini cymbals. You're getting in here. And, yeah, no, he was one of the people, like, I saw him do stand-up on YouTube, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to do funny stuff or something. So, thank you, Curtis.
Thank you, Curtis.
But, yeah, besides that, if you like this, or if you want to write in questions, I really want to do a Q&A episode, or Emma and I can think of fake questions that people sent us.
Sure.
And we'll answer random questions.
Let's do it.
But,
please, comment.
Like, comment, rate, subscribe. We're plugging ourselves. And
Yes,
this
we
week
are.
our sponsor is eHarmony. Use product code, see what sticks. Actually, if that works, eHarmony send us money. And Audible.com and MeUndies and Movement Watches and Blue Apron. And who else does podcast subscriptions? Oh, Loot Crate. Who else does them?
I don't know.
AdamandEve.com does them.
I don't know about that.
AdamandEve.com. A Dollar Shave Club.
Alright, guys, this has been a really fun time. Hope you have a great rest of your day, evening, week, weekend, whenever you decide to listen to us. We love you all so much for sitting through this entire podcast with us. And we will be talking to you shortly. Give us a week and we'll say hey again.
Yeah, this week we'll have 2, and we'll see you next weekend. Merry Christmas to if you're listening to us on Christmas, or New Year's, or Kwanzaa, or Hanukkah, or Festivus.
All the holidays.
Festivus, because it's for the rest of us. And thank you for listening. We will catch you next time. Bye-bye!
Bye!